Hey everybody, we're going to be creating a new website on our WordPress account, and I'm going to just walk you through. This is part one, and if we follow along with the walkthrough, that's basically what this video is, but I'm going to provide a little more context without having to show screenshots and things like that in the actual walkthrough notes in Canvas. So follow along this video and also the instructions, and you should be good. Okay, so first thing, we've signed into WordPress here, and I'm in my sites. You may end up on your dashboard for your existing website as soon as you sign in. And so to get to your account management while you're on a dashboard for one of your websites, just hit the W up here and go to sites. And this is where we can add a new site. And we're going to use the WordPress.com option. And the subdomain that we're going to call this is going to be your initials, first, middle, and last. Or if you just have first and last, that's fine. Or if your last name is hyphenated, use the first initials of the two last names. But anyway, for me, Jason L. Cooksey, and then add on to that 2025 portfolio. And of course, it's going to try and sell you domains. We're not going to do that. We're going to use the free one. So I've already done this with JLC 2025 portfolio, so it's not going to let me use that one again. So I have to add a 3 on there, apparently. So that's fine. But this is the option you want to choose. Select the free. Make sure this domain price is 0, and then click continue. And then again, we definitely want to choose the free over here, which is just the basics. And now we have a new website. Don't forget, when you are finished with setting things up and creating the content for the rest of the instructions, do not forget to launch the site. If you see that blue button at any point, before submitting your work, you need to make sure you hit that launch site. Otherwise, I won't be able to see it. Okay, everybody, we're on part 2. This is the initial site setup. The first thing we want to do is head over to settings, hover over settings, and then choose general. Or if you click on settings, I believe it just takes you to general right off the bat, or you can select it from here if something else pops up. And then our site title, this is the title that's going to exist in the content of our website, not necessarily the domain part of our site, but this is what people see on all of the pages of our site. And so we're going to call this your first name and your last name, and then 2025 portfolio. And again, this is coming from the walkthrough instructions and Canvas assignment. And then the tagline is whatever you want to say. Okay. And then we're going to scroll to the bottom and make sure we choose Save Changes. That's very important. All right, now we're going to head to Settings and then Writing. And we're going to scroll down here. To portfolio projects and testimonials. And we're going to just enable portfolio projects and enable testimonials for the site. And when we're done with that, we're going to click Save Changes. And once we've done that now, you'll notice on your dashboard you have 2 additional menu items, portfolio and testimonials. The portfolio is what we're going to work with in this video and the next couple videos. Testimonials may be part of part 2, or we might not use testimonials, but I want to make sure that we know how to engage this. And actually, I know we're going to use testimonials, so disregard that. We're not going to do it. We will do it. you can get on that. Okay, so portfolio. Now we know we have posts, right? And we know we have pages. Pages are basically anything that you can click on the sidebar menu of your live site. Right now we just have our home page, and our home page is a collection of the most recent posts, and we only have this one post in there right now. But if we want to actually have a web page as our home page, we need to first create that page, and then in our settings tell WordPress to not show the posts, but to show, you know, the index page or whatever page we want to use for the home page. Then it won't cycle through and pull up all the posts and show them on the home page. It will actually just show a different page, a page that you've created. But right now, all we have is the About page. If I click on About, it's just the sample content. It's important to understand the distinction between pages, posts, and then portfolio and testimonials. So we just talked about pages. Right now, there's the About page. Now, posts are a unique type of content. Technically, in WordPress, pages are posts also. They are included in the loop when WordPress is pulling in pulling in content for your site. But it's better to think of pages as a wholly unique piece of content, and posts are like a serialized. Think of like Instagram posts. Like when you post something on Instagram, you're not creating a web page. You're creating a snippet of content that includes an image, and you can tag your friends in it. You can have hashtags on there. You can give it a title. People can make comments on it. And then when you're on your main Instagram page, you see all of the posts that you've posted. And you can also provide categories for those posts, but through hashtags. But Instagram just shows everything. And so think of that as our homepage right now is just going to show all of the posts that we've created. And all we've created is this Hello World post. Well, WordPress created it for us. So I like to get rid of this one. First of all, it just doesn't belong here. So we're going to go ahead and trash that. Okay, so posts are not pages. Pages are not posts. Posts are a snippet of content that look like pages, but they are retrieved sort of differently from the database, opposed to pages, which are their own unique standalone thing. Now, when we're talking about portfolio projects, think of a project in a portfolio as a post, and the same is true for testimonials. They are what's called a custom content type. So I can use portfolio types to be able to show projects separate from my posts. And I'm not sure why WordPress decided to keep those separate. That's just how it goes. I guess if you go through the process of creating a specific content type, like a portfolio or a testimonial, you probably don't want those showing up in your overall posts page. So keeping them separate is the way to go. Okay, so we're going to add, so just like posts have categories, right now we have no category, or we have uncategories. Portfolio projects also have types, which are considered categories. And if it even calls it category right here. See that? Categories. So I will sometimes refer to as portfolio category, but what I mean is a project type. Sorry. I'm terrible at this. Sorry about that. But the first thing we want to do, according to our initial setup, site setup instructions, part 2.3, portfolio project types, we want to create a parent portfolio project type, and we're going to call it portfolio. And I know that's probably confusing because we have a content type, a post type called portfolio, and now we're going to have a category or a project type that is portfolio. And stepping a few steps back from that, remember, project types, categories, post categories, all of those things are just designations that we assign to a post or to a project. So it feels weird to do the designation first without having any posts, but it's important to remember that every time you post something and every time you create a project, that we want to have a category assigned to that. And the default category for these will most likely be portfolio, because all of our project types, our sub-project types under portfolio, will be children of that portfolio type, because it's going to be a parent. Okay, so there we go. New project type called portfolio, and we're going to click add project type. All right, let's add some more. So the next step is to add all these categories as project types. Be sure to set the parent as portfolio for each project you add. So we're just going to go through a couple of them. So I'm going to do one for design, and I'm going to make sure and set this to portfolio. Before, there was nothing here except none, because portfolio didn't exist and we just now created it. So I'm going to click design and portfolio, and let's do art, another project type, and that's also going to be portfolio. And then let's do video, also part of portfolio. Awesome. And you can see, you should see these M dashes here in front of video, art, and design. That means that this is a subtype of a parent project type, which in this case it's going to be portfolio. All right, I think that's good. We did 3 of those. I don't want to do all 12 right now. And so let's go to project tags, and we're going to add some new tags. These are going to be the type of, or the capacity that we created this project in. So did we do this as a freelancer? Did we do it as a personal project? Not pie, personal. Were we an employee? We did this for a company we worked for? Or is this a project we did as a student? I think this is a good collection of tags. All right, groovy. Now all the tags show up. Now with tags, we can't have categories and subcategories, or sorry, parent and children within the tags. There's just tags. They just all show up. They're all at the same level, as opposed to project types, which can have a parent-child relationship. Okay. All right, y'all, this is part 3 of creating a new portfolio site on WordPress.com. This is the prep component here. This is where we're going to do the prep work for the content that's going to go on our site. The instructions say to review, or in parentheses, remember, the design, art, video, writing, photography, making music, coding, crafts, fashion, cooking, illustration, creative work you have done. Those are the categories, or the subcategories of project types that I thought would cover most everything. But if none of these cover a project that you've worked on, you've done something totally unique that's not within this these project types, you're more than welcome to add additional project types. But these are the ones that that I thought would work best for us and our experience so far. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a new document. So I'm going to use Drive, but you don't have to use Google Docs. You can use Word on your computer. There's a text editor as well. You can do Word Online. Also, as a student, you have access to that. The school does not provide Google stuff, but I mean, it's free. So for so many gigabytes, I guess. All right, so I'm going to click on the new button here, and I'm going to choose a Google Doc. All right, and I'm going to call this GRC 45 portfolio projects. I made a recommendation in class on Thursday, and I said list your projects out first and then come back and recategorize them. And I think if that makes more sense to you, then do it that way. But an alternative way is to bring in all of, just copy and paste those project types into the document and just create an outline of projects that you've done within these categories. So, I don't know if you've ever worked with an outline in a Google Doc or Word, but it's just a numbered list, and we create it by, having a list of items. And then I select all of that stuff there. And then I click one of these guys. This is a bulleted list, which just gives me bullet points. Clicking it enables it. Clicking it again turns it off. And this is a numbered list. Clicking it enables it, and clicking it again turns it off. And then when it's enabled, you can click the drop down and you can choose different types of formatting for that. So cool. That's a list. So we have an ordered list here based on the copy and paste from the assignment in Canvas. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to say design. X, Y, Z. Perfect. Okay. Just hit enter again. And this is logo for Bob's Burgers. Okay. And then I'm going to use my arrow to go down. Let's see, I did a video here. Delmer Cooksey Memorial video. I made a video for my grandfather's memorial when he passed away. Let's see, photography, making music. Let's do that one here. Hit the return key. The tab key is how we start, we indent in order to make a sub list there. So this was a band I was in called 0 Mile. And then I can say I've got 2 songs that I wrote. Let's just call it that. Okay. Also, we could, 0 Mile is not really a category. That's a thing. So a category could be writing here, or songwriting. So I did those 2 songs, okay? And then to go back like I did just there, if I hit enter, if you hit shift tab, it takes that indent one back one. And so I played the drums on a song called Parking Lot. And we'll call it that. Okay, so I've done a ton of stuff that I'm not going to write in here. You've done a ton of stuff, and you are going to write it in there. So again, this is one way. The other way is to just make a list of all of your projects that you've worked on, or even the projects that you've assisted other people with, and list those out, and then you can filter them back into this outline here, or start with the outline. I'm kind of actually leaning more towards outline now, because the outline helps jog my memory a smidge. So I just said the word smidge. Yep, you heard it there. Okay, so we've got our projects, even stuff you've done in class, listing all these out, and now this part is done. All right, welcome to part 4 of our portfolio sites. We just did part 3, which is the prep, and you're looking at the results of that here. So what we want to do now is we want to bring these into our website. And so for the purposes of this recording, I am going to segment my screen here. Hey, that's not how you do it, homie. There we go. Cool. Okay, so we're on part 4 where we add our projects. And so I'm going to select portfolio and add new project. Okay. So this is our familiar editor. It looks like this when we create a post. looks like this when we create a page. And now we're creating a portfolio project, which is a specific custom content type, or custom post type actually. So I am going to give this a title, and my first project that I'm going to list is this website, XYZ Nonprofit. And that's it. For this part, for part one, we don't have to add any content. We just want the title. And then, of course, we need to categorize this. So if we go to project types here, this little drop down. Now, I only did art, design, and video. So I'm going to, this is a design project, so I'm going to click on design. And then the tag, was this for personal use? Was it for client? Was it freelance? This was for freelance. So I'm going to type FREE, and there it shows up in the list. Now, I wish that the tags would list like they do for the types, but that's fine. Freelance. You just have to remember what you did. I think the idea is that you could probably have a lot more tags than you could have types, but we did it this way. This is how we rolled it. All right, and so this is just freelance, so I'm going to go ahead and click publish. Awesome. All right, I'm going to add now a second project, second design project. So I'm going to click add new project here. I don't have to go back to the dashboard. So this is logo for Bob's Burgers. All right, and this is a design project. And this was also freelance. Let's save that. Groovy. All right, let's do one more. Oh, and that menu went away. So let's see, can I add it from here? No, okay, so we have to go back to my posts. So I'm going to add a new project. And this is Delmer Cooksey Memorial Video. Now this is a video project, so I'm going to check that project type. And then this was not freelance. I did not get paid for it. This was a personal project. So I'm going to type PERS, and then that search is going to pull up personal. And then I'm going to click publish and publish again. Publish the site is step 5. So I'm not going to stop and do a whole video just for publishing the site. We're going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to launch site. And it's going to ask me to buy this, and I'm going to skip the purchase and keep the plan free. So if we go to view our site, we don't see any projects. All we have is an about page. There's not even any posts. The reason for that is that posts automatically will show up in the home page because the home page is designated to show our blog posts. So if I go to settings, your homepage displays your latest posts. Now, once we create a homepage, then we're going to change that, and we're going to choose the homepage from the list here. But we haven't created that page yet, so it's not in the list. So we need to leave this at your latest posts. So we need to create a page that's going to show all of our posts. So I'm going to, or all of our projects. So I'm going to go to pages, and I'm going to add a page. And I'm going to call this portfolio. I'm going to make sure that's what it says in the instructions here. The instructions say create a page for each project type. I'm just going to create one for portfolio to show everything for right now. Okay, and this is where things get a little wonky, and they did on Thursday. Like, we ran into some brick walls for sure. So if I do /, and you can type loop or query loop. A query loop, when you have a default blog page, like what our home page is set as, there is a loop in that page in the template, and it iterates through all of the posts, and it finds the 10 most recent or 5 most recent, and it pushes that as your home page until you decide to go with an actual web page. But everything in WordPress is a loop, and we might not see that. We might not get to the PHP side of things, but if we do, you'll see that there is a loop, and you feed that loop attributes, and based on the attributes, it knows what kind of content to show up. And the site builds itself, and then it builds itself from the content. It's quite clever, actually, when you get into see the behind the scenes stuff. And also, it becomes quite complex even on the front end, as we're trying to put all this stuff together and wrangle WordPress to do what we want to do. Remember, at its heart, it's a blogging platform, which adds some really cool complexity and configurability, but also makes things like kind of not right on the surface and easy to click and move things in the way that you want them to move around to present. So we have to use this thing called the query loop block. And the query loop block knows what kind of content exists in our site because of all the options that we have selected so far. And it will let us choose which of those types of content to display in this query. And basically it has a little template, and it just iterates through all that content and creates a space on the page for each piece of content that it finds in the database. The problem is right now, when we choose a pattern to show, this is the one that we did yesterday. We chose this posts 9. So when I click on that, it's not going to find any results. Also, I don't really have a good idea of what those posts are going to look like, because by default, the post type it's looking for in that template pop-up is post. So if I change this to project, which we have in this case for me, I've got a couple of them. Now you'll see the projects show up. We don't have any images yet, but here's our projects. So the workaround for this, or at least to help this make sense for us, is I'm going to go back to the main site here. I'm going to leave that content, bye-bye content. And I'm going to create 2 dummy posts. And the 2 dummy posts are going to allow me to see what my post content or my project content is going to look like in each of those 9 templates that it gives us the option of choosing from. So I'm going to click Add Posts, and I'm just going to say this is the title, and then I'm going to put some dummy text in there. And then we're going to set a featured image for that. I'm just going to go to Pexels, grab the first image I can, select. And the featured image is important to be included in this post, because when it previews that content, you want to see what the image looks like with your content as well. So I'm going to publish that post, publish again. All right, and then I'm going to add a second post. Another title, and I have just some dummy text off to the side here that you guys can't see, but I'm just adding just caca in there. It's not caca, it's actually pretty decent writing, but it's not relevant to any of this stuff. Oh, there's a good one. I like that one better. You know what? The paint one's cool. No, it needs to be full bleed. Okay, there we go. Mr. Cooks is talking to himself, you guys. All right, publish this one. Groovy. Now I'm going to go back. Now I have 2 posts here. Now when I go to my site, now it shows content. Here's the 2 posts that I just created. Now, mind you, it doesn't show any of the portfolio stuff. We can go to just the 1 post here if we want to. We can go to this other post if we want to, and we go to our About page, and then we can click on our site title to go to the home page again. And remember, the home page is set to show the 10 latest posts, not the 10 latest projects or the 10 latest testimonials. Those stay separate from the post. Those do not get included in the loop that pulls the posts up, which is what this homepage default is right now. So to fix that, we want to go back to our dashboard, and we're going to go back to our pages here. We're going to pick up where we left off. Actually, I'm going to trash this. I want to start over. I'm going to add a page. I'm going to call it portfolio. Click here, do /Q. It should find query loop is right there. Now I need to choose a pattern for the query loop. Now I can see what these are going to look like, whereas before we couldn't. Much better, much better. And so I am going to choose this one here because I like the bigger images. It gives me more room. It gives me more visibility into this project image. So I'm going to choose posts 4. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this. Cool. And then I'm going to go to my site here, dashboard, and I want to view the site. Now I've got portfolio here, and when I click on that, it shows my posts. 2 problems happening here. I'm sure you can see. This was our issue in class on Thursday, is that we have this giant text, and it's just wrapping, and it's weird. It looks funky. And then we have the giant word posts, which is actually bigger than the page title. It's very, very poor design. So I want to fix this. So first thing I want to do, I want that content to go the full width of the available space. So I'm going to bring up this guy here, make sure posts is selected, and I'm going to turn off inner blocks use content width. And when I do that, you'll see that these guys get bigger. I'm going to leave that on though. First, I want to show something to you real quick. Okay, so here's how it looks right now. And the thing that bothers me is that the left edge of my content is here, right? But my internal content starts indented, and I just don't like the way that looks. Everything over here is lined up along the left. This is not, and it looks funky. So let's go back over here. So I'm going to turn off inner blocks use content width. I'm going to choose save. And I'm going to launch this in a new tab. All right, now that sort of fixed our titling issue, and these guys line up. So let's do one more change real quick here. This posts right here, it's called posts, but it's really just a group. The thing that we added is, here's the query loop right here. And when you add a query loop, it automatically creates a grouping outside of the query loop to give you content, hints and clues. There was one of those layouts that showed the post's name, and then it had this blurb text, and that's outside of the flow of the loop. So anything that's not inside of the loop only gets shown once. Everything inside of the loop loops over as many projects as there are, or as many posts as there are. And I want to get rid of this big giant word post. So I'm going to click on it here, hit my 3 dots, and just choose delete. Okay. Now let's look at our query loop with the structure here. We have a template, we have some columns, and then inside each of those columns is some content, title and date. Now, you might be wondering, okay, you're clicking on this stuff here, But what about this stuff over here? Where's that? Where does that stuff exist? It's the same. There is a loop that's happening live right now. So if I was to, let's say, set the column, the featured image, well, let's do the title. If I was to set the title, this column block, if I was to set this to align top, both of these align to the top now. They're not independent of each other because this is part of a loop. And if I had 15 projects, every single one of those projects, the title and the date would have flipped up to the top. Okay. For me, I like the way that looks, and I'm going to do the same thing with this column for the image. So the featured image column, I'm going to make sure and set that to align top as well, because we're going to add some content here in the next part of this project, and it's going to push the image down in an inconsistent manner. And so if we have 3 paragraphs here, the image is going to land here. If we have 2 sentences here, the image is going to be kind of towards the middle of the top of this. So it's going to be uneven, and we want consistency. So that's why we dock everything up to the top there. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to save this. And I know it looks weird because the title is up here. It's indented. Why isn't it all the way over here? That's just how it is. I'm going to click Save. So we created a new page, called it Portfolio, and then we added a query loop block that queries based on that project type. Now, the instructions say to create a small description about the projects in that project type before publishing the page. I'm going to adjust that. I think what we want is just a listing of our projects here. And that is the end of part 1 of this assignment.